Hello, my name is Wyatt Kinney. I'm the Asia Pacific Regional Analyst with the Everbridge Global Insights team. In this briefing, I'll provide an overview of the Bangladesh national elections coming up on February 12th, 2026, with a focus on the political context and near-term operational considerations. To begin, here's a brief overview of the election. Bangladesh is scheduled to hold parliamentary elections and a national referendum on February 12th, 2026. The vote will take place under the interim administration led by Chief Advisor Mohammed Yunus. The election and referendum are intended to support a return to parliamentary governance following political changes in 2024. The pre-election environment remains closely managed with elevated administrative coordination and security oversight. Turning to the political context shaping the election, the February 2026 elections are taking place under an interim administration. The current electoral fields include the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, also known as the BNP, the Jamaat-e-Islami Party, and the National Citizen Party, also known as NCP. Voters will take part in a referendum on the July Charter, which outlines proposed governance reforms. International observation missions, including from the European Union, are present to monitor the process. Next, I'll touch on security conditions and political activity during the election period. Election periods in Bangladesh are typically accompanied by increased political mobilization, expanded security force deployments, tighter controls around key locations. In the current cycle, authorities have emphasized preventative measures, rapid response to gatherings, protection of polling-related infrastructure. Recent incidents involving political figures have contributed to a more cautious security posture, increased monitoring of campaign events and demonstrations. Current indicators suggest activity-related risks remain localized, primarily in urban centers. Disruption is more likely to take the form of movement restrictions and traffic controls than sustained civil unrest. Urban centers, particularly in Dhaka, are expected to experience the most noticeable operational constraints during the election period. Related to this, it's also important to address political protest activity and urban disruption. Dhaka has experienced public demonstrations and labor-related actions in the period leading up to the election. In response, authorities have implemented traffic controls and restricted zones near government facilities. During the election period, primarily from February 11th through the 13th, there's a high likelihood of localized road closures, delays to public services, general movement restrictions. Briefly, I'll address the terrorism and extremism risk environments. Security assessments indicate an elevated but non-specific risk of opportunistic activity during the election period. There is no confirmed reporting of an imminent or coordinated extremist plot. Any potential incidents would most likely involve low complexity methods and public or symbolic locations. For most organizations, this translates to general situational awareness rather than a targeted threat exposure. Finally, there are important economic and trade considerations to keep in mind. Bangladesh plays a central role in global textile and apparel manufacturing, including logistics. Short-term disruption could affect inland transport, port operations, and custom administrative processes. These impacts are expected to be time-limited and operational rather than structural. Regional and global effects would most likely involve schedule variability, not supply loss. The outlook. So looking ahead to the immediate period around the election, pre-election period, during the election, and post-election. So pre-election period, there's going to be an increased security presence and administrative controls. During the actual election period on February 12th, expect temporary disruption to mobility and government services. Post-election conditions will depend on administrative sequencing and political responses. To conclude, the February 12th, 2026 Bangladesh national elections represents a defined operational period requiring planning and awareness. The main considerations relate to mobility, scheduling, and administrative pace. Conditions are best characterized as managed and time-bound rather than actual unrest. But